Welcome back to From the Pages of Inside Wrestling, the March 1981 issue. You pick this one up and it does not feel quiet. It feels active. It feels like every territory is vibrating at the same time. Peter King opens in the editor's notebook with that strong line about winter being cold, but the feuds raging across wrestling burning hot enough to melt ice caps, and that's not exaggeration for effect. As you move through his breakdown, you realize this issue is built on rivalries that feel personal, not manufactured. In the Mid-Atlantic, Ric Flair and Roddy Piper are circling one another with real hostility. Piper insists Flair is blocking his road to the NWA Championship. Flair responds with sarcasm and arrogance. There is no attempt to smooth it over. It's a clash of ego and ambition. In Florida, the tone shifts from pride to heartbreak. Dusty Rhodes and Dick Murdoch were partners. That history hangs over everything. King calls their war a battle of attrition neither can win. And that line sticks because it suggests something deeper than a title chase. In Georgia, Harley Race has angered Tony Atlas after comments made on a local television appearance. Atlas is described as furious. Race, the reigning NWA champion, is not easily intimidated, but there is an edge in the way the feud is framed. It feels volatile. In the WWF, Ken Patera has stepped away after losing the Inter-Continental Championship to Pedro Morales in controversy. He is not retreating. He is training. Observers say he is sharpening a range of maneuvers with a single aim. Hurt Morales, not out-wrestle Hurt. In the AWA, Verne Gagne and Nick Bockwinkel continue their grinding rivalry. Bockwinkel is speaking openly about retirement if he does not reclaim the belt. That's not promotional noise. That is a champion feeling, time pressing in. Gary Morgenstein's On the Road feature pulls you directly into Madison Square Garden. And the temperature changes. Greg Valentine has lost the United States Championship to Ric Flair in a violent, bloody confrontation that capped years of hostility. Morgenstein admits he has never liked Valentine, but he writes with a kind of reluctant sympathy. Valentine sits in the locker room, laces his boots slowly, stares into the dark interior of the locker as if something is missing. He walks toward the steel cage where Flair waits, the diamond-studded belt around his waist catching the arena lights. Valentine shouts that he is the real champion. The crowd answers with boos. It is not triumphant, it is hollow. That image of a man convincing himself he is still on top feels heavier than any single punch. Stu Saks enters with Top Secret behind the dressing room door, and here the shifting nature of wrestling in 1981 becomes the story. Face turns, heel turns, Paul Jones attempting reform, the masked superstar aligning in unexpected ways. Saks doesn't present it as simple change, he asks why. Why would a man who made a name-breaking rule suddenly speak of honor? Why would alliances shift so dramatically? Wrestling at this moment feels unstable. Loyalties are not fixed. Reputations are being tested. Dan Shockett's body slams and pinfalls takes aim at Tommy Rich and does not soften its critique. He argues that words alone do not build champions. That ambition without substance fades quickly. Rich has chased opportunity across territories. He has positioned himself near championship contention. Shockett questions whether Rich's foundation is strong enough to sustain the climb. That criticism matters because in this era, champions carried entire territories. If you faltered, the crowd did not wait patiently. Stephen Farhood's Insider column provides contrast and humor without losing competitive spirit. Dusty Rhodes competes in the first annual He-Man Pancake Eating Contest in Scranton, Pennsylvania. 43 hotcakes. Big Chops McAvoy. A 455-pound competitor named Porky Gross who collapses mid-contest. The story reads almost absurd, but the tone keeps circling back to Dusty's refusal to back down from any challenge. Whether in a ring or at a long table covered in syrup, he competes. Names making news reads like rapid-fire updates from across the country. Ric Flair regains the United States Championship. Teb DiBiase scores a major upset over Ken Patera in Missouri and suddenly feels like a man inching towards something larger. Tony Atlas wrestles Harley Race despite a torn ligament and pushes the champion to the brink before a double disqualification. Jimmy Snuka and Ray Stevens face tension with manager Gene Anderson after losing tag belts. The Freebirds win $20,000 and a national tag trophy in a Georgia tournament. Dusty Rhodes loses the Florida championship to Dory Funk Jr., and Funk wastes no time talking about Harley Race. That's the pattern. Win, lose, challenge upward. No territory stands still. Matt Brock's plain speaking stretches the map even wider. Richmond sees Paul Jones trying to convince skeptical fans that his reform is sincere. Dallas reveals friction between Gino Hernandez and Gary Hart after a humiliating stipulation leaves Hart masked and angry. Atlanta suggests Harley Race can hear the footsteps of Teb DiBiase closing the distance. Orlando delivers Dick Murdoch accepting matches for money with no apology, repeating that outlaw deeds bring outlaw wages. New York sees Captain Lou Albano presenting the Moondogs as the next threat to Tony Garria and Rick Martel. Brock closes with personal road anecdotes, a reminder that the men in these pages are constantly traveling, constantly living out of suitcases and locker rooms, and the advertisements remind you exactly what year you are in. Hammer fist weighted wristbands promising stronger arms and more power. Scientific isometrics offering muscle in 10 minutes a day. Order forms asking for money orders mailed to New York or Kentucky addresses. Guarantees printed in bold. No instant gratification. You filled out the form. You mailed it. You waited weeks. This March 1981 issue feels like a crossroads before consolidation, before national monopolies. Harley Race defending the NWA crown, Bob Backlund steady in the WWF, Verne GAHN-ya anchoring the AWA, Teb DiBiase rising, Tony Atlas raging, Ric Flair flashing gold under bright lights, Greg Valentine walking through booze toward a steel cage, Dusty Rhodes fighting former friends and eating 43 hotcakes for pride. It is loud, it is competitive, it is territorial wrestling in full motion, with every city believing its champion stands at the center of the sport. See you next time. Farewell from the Empire State.